The left wing back's coverage of the Carlow Hurling Championships for 2023 is brought to you in association with Talbot Fitness, Brendan Kavanagh Furniture, Corcoran Precast Tanks, Milano's Takeaway Bagnestown, Connolly's Topline Hardware, PFT Travel, Ray Whelan Limited, Earth Spas and the Arboretum Loughlin Bridge. Hello folks, welcome along to today's episode of the Left Wing Back podcast, and it is the last hurling podcast of the year in terms of club championship action in Carlow, which is mad. The whole thing is after flying, and just at this moment we take the opportunity to say thank you to Brendan Kavanagh Furniture, Corcoran Precast Tanks, the Arboretum, Talbot Fitness, Ray Whelan Limited, Milano's Takeaway, Earth Spas, PFT Travel and Connie's Topline. Without their support we wouldn't be able to do what we love doing. So we were just having a little bit of a chat, and obviously we covered the junior championship final at the weekend. There's commentary up on Spotify and on Apple if you want to listen back to that. We did interviews with Podge Ryan of Glavin Donegal and Frank Foley of Munster Rangers yesterday. While we were on the commentary, we spoke about the Junior Shield and the intermediate final Saturday. So we're going to focus a bit heavier on the senior final on today's programme. We have a team of the year to pick, and we have a hurler of the year to pick. All that on the way, along with our esteemed colleagues Joe Nolan and Stevie Bamrick. Welcome along once more, guys.
Well, Kevin, how are you doing?
Guys, I don't know about you, but I didn't sleep wonderful last night over this team here. Unanimous?
Yeah, there's a bit of talk point, but all right, Kevin. A lot of, which is a good sign, a lot of big decisions, a lot of hard decisions. So, yeah, there was a good bit of to and fro about it, all right, in fairness.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll come to that at the very end as Stevie tries to find a suitable standing place for his...
I was grand there till I think we could sponsor this program, could be sponsored by Whelan's Breakyard above in the heat if my car gets going today.
It's looking good though, Stevie. Looking good, in fairness. Everything is always good until something hits itself in the car. But anyway, we've clips and different things to go through. I want to say thanks to Brendan Joyce for giving us access to some of the video as well. And I suppose the first thing maybe we'll do is look at the goals and the crucial part they played in the game. We always say goals in matches and stuff. So this is the first one. Dean Tobin latches onto a break. And for me in this situation, I said at the time, can't see it out a shot. He's just over the right hand side. Eddie Byrne is there, and I'm thinking to Dean Tobin. Jesus give it to him. He gets hooked. It breaks kindly to him, and he puts it into the back of the net. And just before I wind on to the next one, when I was talking to Frank Foley yesterday, lads, I was saying, as well as you forcing the issue and things going right, from that point of view, you being on your game, the work rate and the intensity, you need that little bit of luck. And I felt in some of these moments in the goals, it's just the indication of the little bit of luck you need on top of that. So the ball breaking back into the path of Dean Tobin when he probably should have given it to Eddie Byrne, still works out, ball in the back of the net. We'll come on to the second one now, and we'll get your thoughts after treatment. Is probably the handiest way of doing it, lads. But line ball from Kevin Mack, I think. Donna Murphy onto it. This man, John Nolan, gets the head up, plays a lovely ball over across to his brother, Chris. Michael Walsh loses the footing. Chris tears down on goal. And again, you can't actually see Eddie Byrne, I don't think, and shot well actually there. You just see him in the corner coming in. You'd be saying, I wonder should Chris have given that to him. But look, it didn't matter. Kevin Keogh gets a hurl to it. Ball ends up in the back of the net. Next thing actually to remark upon, it gives us an opportunity. Frank Foley's puckouts in the early stages and how much they kind of had an influence on the game. He knew, admittedly, that he couldn't go long from the get-go. They got the few short ones off. They gave him a foothold in the game. They got scores from it. And on this occasion, he's forced to go long. And Jack Kavanagh goes up. And this is what I was saying. Another day, Jack Kavanagh goes up and gets that flick, which he does here. It falls into the path of Paddy O'Shea, or if Paddy O'Keogh is in the area, or whoever it is. But right here, it doesn't. And Vigor Fitzpatrick reads it and tears off. He sniffs the opportunity. In fairness, this is the right decision. Goes across to Chris Nolan. Chris takes a big hit off Paul Lyle. That doesn't really do it justice. Kevin Keogh probably just panics for a moment, comes out to Fiacre Fitzpatrick, bang, back in the net. So they were the three crucial goals. And guys, any thoughts on anything?
Well, we were saying I said last week about Eddie Byrne getting 2 goals, possibly, I think that could happen. He could have had 3 goals the first half. He hit a crossbar, he caught one, and the boys look. But then again, being a forward and not getting on the score sheet, which he didn't. But just you wouldn't be leaving them idle either, You'd be kind of saying they were all pretty sucked over like much fire to the lad with the ball, and to get that balance right. When do you go? When's the last split decision you have to go and leave a 1-on-1 where Kevin Keogh's come out, where Frank Foley's other end, and like the goals, we would have said, Joe said in his article there, the goals came from, like, Dean Tobin wouldn't be a goal scorer. He's probably, I think he had maybe won 12 or 15 points before the game Sunday. Fiacre's work rate, like, it's just, that's beyond comparison with anyone his age coming up. He's been absolutely outstanding, but you wouldn't be looking at the paper Tuesday or Wednesday and seeing 3 or 4 points beside it. So they were bonus territory, as in where they came from. You weren't taking from Chris getting his 1-6 or 1-9, wherever he got. John got a couple of points. Donald Murphy hit 3 points. He got the first point. Was it the first point of the game he got? I think. Like, that meant he was into it. So
first point for Rangers, yeah.
It all the players in their first county final in the game after 20 minutes nearly. They had the ball in their hand, probably a score on the board if they're up in the forwards, and but the goals, like the second and third goals, came one after the other, and that pushed the gap there. That St. Mullins had, I'm not saying that they had the quandary: do we stay tapping all the points? Do we start going for goals? You always go back to the Division 1 playoff above in Tullamore with Carlow and Offaly today. Like, we were 10 or 11 points down at half time, or whatever it was. 12. Down to 40 men. Had a gale force win. We got 2 goals in the first 5 minutes, second half. That stopped the need for goals then, so we could tap over the points that day. So it look at I was up in the stand now, and I've been over a lot of county finals in the middle of the St. Mullins supporters over that end. So it was very different to the same vocality or vocal, just from the Mount Leinster point of view, because the St. Mullins crowd wouldn't be many of them in the stand, and they nearly lifted the roof off the 2 goals. Like, they were, it was just the second and third goals especially.
Mm-hmm. I think it was, go on, Joe.
No, I think the goals kind of showed a couple of little things maybe about, on both sides maybe, I suppose. They showed that kind of that high tempo nature, the way Mount Leinster Rangers started the game. I mean, if you look at him there, say Fiacre could have on another day tapped that ball over the bar coming through. He plays a pass inside. They were actively going for goals in
Joe. Sorry, Joe. Actually, I was right. When he did get the ball, he stopped up for a split second from where we were in the stand, and you could see he visually looked over and bang, he said, "Here, we're going for this here."
Yeah, and I think I don't
think Eddie caught the ball. Was it Eddie? Who did he hit, Eddie or Chris? Was it?
For the chance there, for the goal, Chris took the shot and it came back out to Fiacre. But there was another one that he switched across to Eddie Byrne on the edge of the square when he had a handy point, and he spotted him over, and that was again a signal of intent. Yeah.
I mean, I think that was a big thing. Number one, that they weren't content with points. Even when Chris turns with the Welsh, he's probably 45 yards out, and he's only one thing in mind from there on. He doesn't just steady himself and lash it over the bar. Like, he keeps going and going and going. And like you said, if he didn't score, he'd an option inside. But I suppose it also showed you how they were creating space. 2 things. They were prepared to run it, turn the St. Mullins defence. That would seem to be a play all day to run. But also, if you look at the space as well, especially for Chris's goal, there was no one coming across the cover. And I thought, in fairness to someone we didn't really mention maybe as much, or didn't really mention maybe as much during the match as well, I thought Ted Joyce's role in how he orchestrated things from in that half forward line helped create some of that space by drawing out the St. Mullins half back line, especially, say, Paddy in the middle or wherever else. So I think their positional play as well was excellent, Rangers, and how they set up. They drew out that St. Mullins half back line, lots of space inside. they knew then if their runners in the half forward line got a ball, they could turn and go as well because they were running into space, or the ball over the top into a full forward line, that space as well. So I thought the goals were kind of indicative of a lot of the play on the day, and maybe the setups as well on the day for both teams as well, you know. But yeah, but you're right there, Kevin, in what you said too. You need the little bits of luck, or the little bits of whatever you call it. I know they say create your own luck, but you need those things to go right. Like you said, Dean Tobin gets hooked. You know, that ball falls a yard either side of him, and it's a ruck or whatever else. You know, stuff like that. Stuff like that can happen, and when it's your day, you get those little bits to get you across the line. But there were three. There were three key goals. You know, and look, I suppose. The first one, I think, when we were talking, Kevin, as well, I think I put them 1-3 to a point up, if I'm right in thinking. And really, from then on, you thought it was going to be a massive ask for St. Mullins to get back into the game, just with the tempo of the game, the way Mullins Rangers had started. You know, it looked like even from that stage early on, it looked like that their dander was up for the game. You know.
Mm-hmm. I asked Frank yesterday, guys, about the whole thing of space and drawing out the St. Mullins half back line. He said it was an active ploy. Obviously, it didn't happen by accident, which we all kind of knew was probably the case. But I asked him if it was the other way around, what would he have done? You know, if St. Mullins had tried to do that to them. And he said he'd have one body at least anyway. He'd have to have one body sitting back a little bit further to try and cut out the space. Now, look, you know, it can also be a case where there's one body there and you can bypass it quite easily, as we seen with St. Mullins 2 years ago, Stevie and Joe, when Oisin Boland sat back there and they still found a way around it, Rangers did. So, like, I just think sometimes when it's your day and when you're hurling that well, you'll find a way to win regardless of what happens, you know. And, you know, we were saying it, lads, when you do commit the bodies out there to that middle sector and you know that the space behind you, you just have to win that battle. If not, you are under serious pressure, you know. So, look, in terms of the goal chances then, and we were talking about Rangers' intent, and that's what they felt they needed to do to establish a foothold and put the squeeze on St. Mullins. Then we can look at it from the other point of view, and we can look at St. Mullins, and they went for a goal. I think I counted 6 or 7 times where they were heading for a goal and looking for it. And I've only actually got one example here now to illustrate, and I admit it's probably not the greatest example in the world, but this is coming down the stretch in the game. So, again, ball comes down off the post, you know. In fairness, I think Boland is in there trying to orchestrate something again. But look at the bodies back for Rangers. Just look at the bodies back. And when they get possession, they don't panic in working it out, right? So Kevin Mack, no better man to have in that situation, finds John Nolan, that man again, and John Nolan sends it all the way down the field, right? That's just one simple example of it. But there was, I think there was 6 or 7 of those that I cut. Then they kind of went away on me, and I wasn't arse cutting them again. Sorry, lads. But anyway, it was enough to illustrate. And then you think back, if you go and take the 6 or 7 points, what sort of a game are you in? Like, it's, you know, it's easy to say that with the benefit of hindsight, I guess, but it is something that was remarked upon and possibly could have came back to haunt St. Mullins. Is that harsh, lads?
Well, Paddy Boland had maybe, I'd say, 3 goal chances over the game, but Rangers kept him over onto his other side.
The dog thinks it's harsh anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the standards here. We don't accept that, and else.
Yeah. Go on ahead,
like, you know, still fresh in memory, the Crow Park, Joe McDonough, Paddy catches the ball, the right hand turns, hits it off that side. I thought Rangers kind of kept him, right, okay, he's going to get chances, but they kept him over to the side, put him onto the other side, and shoot from there. And then a clatter lads come in behind, like they were putting bodies on the line. Like, Darren Byrne was full back, and, you know, you'd say, did he hit the ball in the whole game? He didn't hit too often, but they were going around him. They weren't going in, lobbing in high balls in there, hoping for something to happen. They had to try and work it around the edge of the D and that to get goal chances. As you say, should have tapped over a few more points probably, but like they were back to 2 points there, 1-5-6 from 1-4-1 in the first half, and then like 2 scores later or 3 scores later, it's gone to 3-7-6 points. You know, the gap is there now where points are going to have to be taken for, you know, every chance has to be taken. There was I think there were 10 wides apiece in the game, but like Let's Rangers know at this stage that seven players scored from play in the first half. So and they were all from midfield up. So that meant any ball went into the Rangers forward line, your man was generally on his game at that stage. So whereas Mullins Conor Keogh hadn't got into it much. I think he got 1 point in the first half. James Doyle got a point in the first half, So there was more the Rangers lads in the game felt the way of the ball than Sam Mullins had. And then you're going in with a 7 or 8 point deficit as well, right? It was probably a good breeze, all right, but breeze don't win the game for you.
But I think if you look at the St. Mullins kind of, we'll call them goal chances or chances that they went, I think that clip is kind of indicative of it. Like there was never that I can remember like a kind of a one-on-one or the space that Rangers created for their goal chances, like very compressed, very tight. It was going to take something special to get a goal from those chances because of the bodies there. Even in that clip there, you mentioned Dermot. You look at his position in there; he never gets drawn outside the box. If you get me, you know what I mean. So his default position there is if you look at it here, look his default. But
that's back to what Frank said earlier. There, what he said to Kevin in the interview. I didn't see that. Like that even in that situation, okay, that's a no-brainer. You have to have the fullback has to be in front of the goalie there. But these are things that you do by habit. You don't. Frank hasn't to be shouting at him or Kevin Keogh firing the Paul Doyle. These are things, relationships between fullback and goalies that have to be. They have to be cast iron,
But even their six backs, Steve, their six backs were so compressed. You know what I mean? They were always in a position to be able to defend the ball in like that because they weren't turning and going back towards their own goal as well. I'm just saying, like in terms of Dermot, he never left that D, he never got pulled out. But their six backs were always in proximity of their own goal, so that even if they were turned, they had less distance to get back. You know what I mean? They were so like I can't remember the Rangers half back line being pulled at all up the pitch or anything from their default position. They held their ground. And it meant, like I said, if they were beaten in a position, then there was bodies back there at all times. You know what I mean? And I thought that was very key. Like, you know what I mean? They never coughed up that big space that maybe those St. Mullins forwards might have needed to get the real goal chances, if you get me.
Bang on, Joe. And like Richie Cody in particular, 2 or 3 times came across for different efforts. I know a couple with Boland perhaps, and like just that I suppose that awareness of getting the second body across like at the right time to snuff it out, and as Stevie said, force Boland maybe onto his left. Different things that they were just fantastic at, it has to be said. But like guys, I know in years gone by, the members of the media used to get a vote for man of the match. I got no vote there anyway. I don't think you did either, so, and I don't think Stevie did, right? But Chris Nolan was given man of the match, and there's a fair case to be made for Chris Nolan getting it. But my own personal opinion, his brother should have got it. John, I thought he was absolutely outstanding, and I'm going to illustrate why, right? So I think this is about 1:50. I could have easily made 3 minutes out of this. He was that good that are there, and good in a variety of different things, right? And again, this is another example of Frank's puckouts and the importance that they played. This is literally one of the early ones. So John comes from midfield to take this puckout. Again, even though he's pressurized a little bit initially, gets the head up, gets the ball in around the house. Federer's probably unlucky here not to get something, actually. Kevin Mack linked up very well with John Nolan. It must be said, look at that for a little flick pass. But again, on receipt of it, John, gets a little look first before he delivers. And again, it's in around the house, and a little bit of danger. He was just, they win a free in, actually. He was phenomenal. The ground he covered, getting back and helping out at 6 there while keeping an eye on James Doyle, which was the most important thing. Coming into the game, he was a foreign player along with Kevin McDonald on the Rangers side. So he identified that, and, he was just incredible. I can't really find the words to illustrate how good the guy was.
I think you said a big thing there, Kevin. And for me, it was a big thing. Like you mentioned there, the influence that James Doyle had all year, and he has had a wonderful championship, James Doyle. And I suppose Rangers had to come up with a play because he was always going to be key to the St. Mullins setup. And you look at Doyle, you look at what Nolan, like they said, look, rather than working systems or getting bodies in, they gave John Nolan one job to do, and that was nullify James Doyle. Do you know what I mean? And it takes a big man to do that, and not only to nullify him, but to play such an important part of his own game as well. So, yeah, an incredible display by him.
Yeah, and look, even here with this score, which I didn't actually remark on just yet, like Eamon O'Shea does, everything right, goes up, goes to the clouds, and John never takes his eye off the ball. And that's how the ball breaks loose. He just puts in the hand like that, and bang. That's a quality point. That is absolute quality from this guy. And he's done it in Crow Park. We've seen that as well. I think this here now is what sums up the whole performance. This is unbelievable. So the catch from James Doyle was straight away, lads. I've never seen this. 2 blocks in a couple of seconds. That is just relentless stuff. And a willingness to just not say that, not to take no for an answer. Like I don't know. I've no more words. Unless you do.
I want to find out where John Nolan's getting the hurls, because how does he have to take 2 blocks like that and it's not in John Nolan's boot of the car after, I don't know.
Yeah. Not like some of them yokes who would drop up to me. Would have been gone there.
Like that catch is outstanding from James Doyle as well, just to add. The skill in that clip, lads, for a variety of different things. The catch, the agility, the block, and then.
And I tell you, Kevin, as well, apart from the hurling end of things, the physicality he brought as well. I mean, look, and the level of, obviously he's a very fit, a man because of, county hurling and et cetera, and with his club. But like, we know the levels of fitness that James Doyle has, and his pace and his power, and to stick to do the job in every sense, if you get me, was incredible. Yeah, an incredible display. And I think in fairness to Paul Bryan, they got a lot of their matchups right, and they got a lot of their game plan right. Like we said about their creating the space for their inside line, sitting back, their matchups. Like I said, that was a very key one, because at first, like we said, James Doyle had set the tempo for St. Mullins this year in every game. He scored I think it was 2 or 3 games. He scored the first point of the game. Leading like a captain. And in fairness to Rangers, they hammered the hammer. You know what I mean? They went that where St. Mullins were strong, and looked to not only nullify but to push forward off that as well. So it was an incredible display. Yeah, it was as good as we've ever seen in a county final.
And in a sense, I suppose, Joe, asking him to maybe sacrifice his game somewhat. And I suppose he's versatile. Like, he's played wing back last year, which probably has to be an advantage when it comes to doing a job like that. But he's also put on clinics in near the goal. So in a way, I mean, you can ask this man to do anything, and he'll deliver it for you. His versatility is unbelievable. Again, here, sees the danger. And the thing that I loved about this, Stevie and Joe, right? Just look at, you'd be saying to lads, don't slow down. But the right thing to do here was slow down and time the hook, the timing of the hook. So the awareness to see that Mouse Kavanagh is a threat. I need to get back here. Even though he's not marking him, he's like, right, I need to get back here. Right? Just wait. He just pauses. I guess the hook. In the boys go, and Sean Joyce completes the clearance.
Yeah.
Again, this here, this sums it all up. This is the last score. Head up, over to Chris. And this is more about the score now, I suppose, than even John's little pass. But that's
to me, yeah. And to me, to be honest with you, and I mentioned it in the article there, to me, that summed up that little bit there with that cameo from Chris punching to the crowd. I know every county final means a lot to anyone who wins it. Even say there was lads there picking up their 11th victory, but there was something special in that one for them. I think there was something special in it for them. It felt somewhere special. Maybe they felt that maybe things hadn't been going to plan, or maybe there wasn't enough talk about them, or they felt disrespected, or whatever else. That's their own thing, whatever they feel. But when you saw Chris doing that, it wasn't kind of a case of going through the motions or anything for these lads, or that we've done it before, and it was something special for them. And I think that was kind of evident from minute one, though, the game and the energy they brought to it, that they were, I won't say call it fired up, whatever you want to call it, but it had all those things, and it had certainly special meaning. But but it's I suppose it's what to call it. It's one that maybe St. Mullins might look back on and maybe feel, would they have changed some stuff themselves? Maybe, like we said, we thought they maybe went overly man to man. Maybe it would have been better off in marking space and trying to let Rangers try and hit them from deep from points, and not to cough up those goal chances. But I suppose, look, hindsight is great, and I suppose we've the ability to look back, but you don't get the chance to do it there on Sunday, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much so. From a St. Mullins point of view, Jack Kavanagh, I thought, hurled an awful lot of ball. I think he came away with great credit. The thing about, like, Paul Doyle came away an awful lot of ball, even though Chris got whatever he got. You know, and I know Paddy went across onto him for a little while, but Paul still came out with an awful lot of ball. John Dorn had a tremendous battle with Eddie Byrne. You know, like, and at times, everyone's going to struggle against Eddie Byrne, right? But, you know, even to try to get the ball to break. We were talking about this the other day, Joe. The thing with Eddie is that ball has to go down the throat now. That's the stage he's at. When it does go down the throat, he's catching it or it's breaking in front and it's sticking. There's danger there, like. And what do you call it? I sent a message the other day just to say, well done. And his reply was, thanks or whatever. And he knows Paddy Quirke's on 15. I was like, lad, you surely get there. Yeah, you stick around. He goes, Jesus, I don't know what's left in the legs or whatever. But for that to happen, obviously, requires an awful lot of work. And he's been some servant. Like, he won his first medal as an under 16. The rule had come in the year after. So he was under 16, I think, sub-keeper. And to come with 11 medals, I think it's himself, Richie Cody, Richie Kelly, and David Phelan. Am I leaving someone out? For Rangers, we'll say. Like, that's a fair haul. Jenny Mack, it's and Paddy Quirke's 15, you were saying, Stevie. Peter mentioned.
Paddy Quirke is 15, Mickey Nolan is 15, Ned Kavanagh's 13, Noel Smithers, Noel Minchin, and Peter Keeley from St. Mullins have 11 each. But, like, in our time, like, you know, Paddy Quirke they won the first one in 74, I think, like, or 75. And, you know, 15 was mental, absolute off the chart figures, and here you have 4 or 5 on 11 here at the moment. Like, it's from coming from zero after losing. Like, but lads, don't forget that, like, the likes of Eddie Byrne, Pat Hickey, Mick Murphy, Tom Foley, these lads played in 3-4 county finals. Tara Kelly with Ballymurphy didn't go over the line, but favourites, and some of them just didn't go over the line. And, you know, I can remember because my aunt was married to Paul Foley. Tom's brother was actually talking to Tom there before the match, and I met him at half time as well. Frank's father, a gas character, and like, Danny played in the goal in a couple of finals. I was talking to Danny actually at Paul's funeral about a couple of the finals that they lost, and he said, "Sure, Jez, there's always something happened, like, you know, on the day that, you know, freaking turned the whole yoke, and, you know, just wasn't to be, and you know, to be there and over there, and Frank to come back in as well, like, Jesus Christ, like, he gave as you say, Kevin, a clinic of sharp hookouts there. Like, and I know Dean Grennan, you can see Dean Grennan, when you see Frank now looking at him, you can see where Dean Grennan's style of play comes as well. You know, there's I wouldn't say a mini-me, but it's, you know, there were, you know, it was kind of a, Cluxton came back with Dublin this year, big help. Like, Frank come back there, you know, experience alone, they can caught a lot of dangerous balls there. Probably one puck out, maybe the first half got away with it, but one puck out over its last 5 games that went wrong. But saves, he made a save in the second half on his other side, was going low, and he got the hurl, got up and away, and you know, just that's the thing. Like, at the moment they're on 11, and just they'll push on. Like, they'll get to 15 and they'll get to 20 and whatever. But you know, the thing. That Michelin won 6, I think, in a row, or 5 or 6 in a row, and that team then was St. Mullins were losing 2 or 3 finals in a row to them. They kept coming back. So I'm guessing Peter Keeley was back in the 60s or the 70s before our time anyway. So, like, just that's a mental amount of medals. Like, it's just, but they don't happen by accident. You know, it's just, you know, it's just outrageous.
Steve, it happened again the other day with the mad statistic coming into the head in the car, which it always does, and I still didn't finalise this stat, but 75 to 80% of the time the outsiders won the county final. Now, I couldn't see Rangers 2-1 outsiders. I couldn't see it. I had a feeling they might pull the rope, but 2-1 was just a massive price altogether, and a crazy price in that sort of a game, you know. So in future, I suppose, Carlow Hurling finals, keep an eye on them, lads, anyone that's outside the county. But like, for St. Mullins, it's mad. Like, they were so good in 6 out of 7 games, and even, like, had patches in that 7th game, which is obviously the county final, and to come away with nothing, like, you know, it's mad. You know, the season that they've had, and we probably shouldn't go without remarking on some of that, because we're probably talking about James Doyle as a hurler of the year if St. Mullins win, you know. But anyway, We will cover Hurler of the Year. It's probably a good segue.
Just on that, Kevin, and I hope he won't mind me saying this. Nothing to do with his influence on the game or anything. But I was talking to Patrick Murphy in fairness to Salt, and he refereed the game between St. Mullins and Rangers, and was talking to him at the Camogie match on Sunday morning, and he was quietly confident that Rangers were going to produce something. He saw them obviously from a refereeing point of view, and thought that Rangers got what they wanted to get out of the game after 45, 50 minutes, and were happy enough, if you get me, in the meeting in the league game, from his kind of reading on the play. So, look, it was 2-1 is a huge price in the county final, given the pedigree of both sets of players. I suppose in recent years we can say that kind of if the Rangers did a St. Mullins on it in some ways, because they've turned them over a few times, and they kind of timed their run. Like, in fairness to Mullins to Rangers, and we talked about it early on in the year. And by the way, I don't buy into this stuff of lads question their character and stuff like that. Your character is your character. What you do in a hurling pitch is different. But we were questioning their hurling in terms of where they were at. They were kind of maybe not where at the tempo or at the level that we maybe would have associated with them for other years. And we talked about injuries and players coming back, and those had an influence on things. But they certainly timed their run and timed their hurling perfectly. I suppose, like you said there, given another result, we could be talking about a different end of things. But that's the beauty of sport, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. You reckon, Joe, you have a 100% record of predicting county finals, but they just happen to be wrong or something?
Wrong. Yeah. Well, I suppose I in fairness, I have to say I didn't get to predict this county final. I predicted the winner from the start of the year. I said I go with St. Mullins. I just thought I actually didn't think they'd hurl as well in the group stages as they did. You know what I mean? I thought, but I predicted them from early doors. But look, I mean, so close to call. Sure. I mean, look. Hook of a ball last year, and we had them bet in a semi-final, and that's the joys of sport. So it's sport after all, and look, there's so many variables. Like, that's it. That's the beauty of it,
Absolutely, and we love it. We absolutely love it. Right, team of the year. Okay, yeah, headaches. Okay, so we went with Brian Tracy in goal. Now, I suppose if we start going on about guys that narrowly missed out, we'll be here for about 3 weeks, because goalkeeper was such a difficult one. We all know who the other goalkeepers were, but in the end we went with Brian, and I think largely, I suppose, it wasn't just down to saves or whatever, because some of the other keepers, Thomas Down in particular, made a mad amount of great saves. Brian's puck outs, the organisation, long range frees and stuff like that. Just that steadiness, and conceded very few goals as well as it happened. So we went for him in the goal, full back line. He played every game for Rangers. Sean Joyce. I suppose in terms of maybe consolidating the position. Like out of three that started there in the first couple of rounds, he was the only one to survive the whole championship, and held his place under serious pressure. And very, very, very steady all year, I thought, for a chap there at 2. Dion Wall at 3. Again, he was the worst steady, didn't put a foot wrong. Any task that came in, he dealt with it, very, very manly, very, very fairly, tough player on the edge of the square. Paul Doyle in the other corner. Yes, under a bit of pressure the other day, but still come out with a world of ball and throughout the championship was very, very solid. Do you want to take the half-back line, Joe?
I can't remember them.
Right. I have it going down here. So
I think it's number 6 anyway. I think it was probably the easiest decision of the year. Kevin MacDonald, simply outstanding. Just incredibly steady every game. Incredibly steady. So that was a no-brainer then. On the wings, then we had
Dwayne Kavanagh and Jack Kavanagh.
Yeah, Dwayne and Jack, yeah. We talk about influence. We kind of looked at it in terms of influence on your team and performances in the championship. And we thought Jack was steady throughout. Jack hurled there and hurled midfield. And he got 2 points, if I'm right, on Sunday. Just so consistent all year in both club and county. Dwayne then probably Michael's top outfield player, excellent for them in every game, be it with from play, organisation, defensively, offensively even as well. So yeah, we went with Dwayne then on the other side.
Mm-hmm. So middle of the field, Fiacla Fitzpatrick and James Doyle. Now, Fiacla Fitzpatrick could have went to wing back and Jack Kavanagh could have went to midfield because they both kind of played at different stages in around that sort of territory. But James Doyle, I love the word on James Doyle. It's a fairly handy one. We said it already. He was going to be player of the year probably of Rangers, or if St. Mullins had won the other day against Rangers. Phenomenal, the influence, the power, pace, everything. And when you talk about John Nolan's influence the other day, I mean, it's a fair indictment on James Doyle that we talk about John Nolan in that sense for that reason. I mean, I think that says it all. You say it best when you say not at all, as the fella said. Steve, you're a big Fiacla Fitzpatrick fan. You always were. You have him in here beside James Doyle. We were going to put him in anyway, but I know you are a big fan of Fiacla Fitzpatrick. Tell us why.
Yeah, just like I said, about 3 years ago, we played intermediate below in Loughlin in the Super Bowl against them, and like I think Joe could be back me up on this. He didn't make the county minor squad. I think it was a Celtic challenge. He would have got game time through that, and like he's. And I can't remember exactly which game this was now. I won the games earlier on in the year in Carlow, and I can't remember which, but his runs, and I know under 21 or under 20 football final last year as well, like he makes them runs in the middle third and nearly always gives the right option. He the other day, poor goal to his name, he wouldn't be allowed to, as I said, to pick up the pack and you see a clatter of scores beside him, but to be a quiet work rate. And
his head as well. His head, like he's never panicked.
Yeah. Head up. He's the most heads up hurler you could actually see, and he creates so much room, and that athleticism he has going forward gives a platform for the six forwards in front of him to know the right ball is going to come if I make the right move. If it's Chris Nolan or Donald Murphy, whoever it is, one of us is going to get the ball. That's a given. So. Just another young lad, actually just not on to do the team of the year, but Tim Brennan came on the other day, and I actually just noted the subs were coming on when O'Brien called him down. He nearly took about 2 steps to get down over the stand, had the bib off. He was throwing off the bib going onto the field, and I'd say 10 seconds later the ball handed into his hand and put over the bar. And actually, Paul O'Brien actually said in the interview after, that's why he said to Tim, "You're not playing because they're not getting enough scores." But just see, that where he possibly his first score of the year, I think would have been. He said, "I'm not sure," but I'm going away from Fiacla Fitzpatrick, but he's Tim, a good young chap as well, like, and we're back to Fiacla, like, he just work rate and doing the right thing most of the time. There might be boxes you should be ticking all the time, but everyone doesn't do that.
Yeah, for sure. I knew there was a stat I was missing on Brian Tracy. 3 clean sheets out of 5 games he played. That was the one I was looking for there. Just found the page in front of me. But anyway, the half forward line: Mouse Kavanagh, John Nolan, Dean Tobin. Mouse shirt, what can we say? Nothing. Really, we said it all already. John Nolan, once he came back into that Rangers side, he was such a difference to them in the championship. Dean Tobin, 116 all from play in the championship. Again, goes about his business, gets onto a lot of ball, picks off a few scores every game. He's in there 12. So full forward line then, Chris Nolan again for obvious reasons. Craig Doyle, 35 or 6 years of age to stay doing what he's doing. And no, it's not a case that we have him there for just hitting frees over the bar. He's winning a lot of frees himself. He's setting up scores. He's all around play. Was worthy of inclusion. Now we have a bit of a headache here because we hadn't actually fully settled on 15. So we're going to settle on this live on air. We're going to settle on this live on air, right? Because we have Kieran Kavanagh, who's so consistent the whole year, and we Jake Doyle, who scored, I think, 6-8 in the championship, right? So here's the cast and vote. by your nose, I think when you have a goal machine like that, it's hard to ignore in the general context of it. I also appreciate what Kieran Cavan has done throughout the championship. I'm going to go with Jake Doyle. Stevie?
So you're in the hop. I don't answer a phone call. This has to change. This must be a fucking plot, is it? I answered the phone call there 42 minutes ago. I didn't know this was coming up.
Take off that tinfoil hat before you answer that there. It would be a plot if I had you select
I'm
that.
going to pick Kieran Cavan because Joe will have the casting vote then.
Bollocks.
Right, Joe, it's all down to you, lad.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus. It's a tough one, isn't it? It really is, because Kieran Cavanagh's especially got 3 points in the final.
So he would have finished with, say, Kieran Cavanagh had finished with a tally of 115, I think, throughout the championship. And Jay Doyle finished with 6-8. So,
yeah,
it's not, I'm not just saying it should come down to that only either. Like, it's not the only thing it should come down to, but.
Well, look, I think I'm going to give it to Jake Doyle.
Right. A1.
Just for scoring, maybe scoring power and maybe impact for a team, if you get me. Do you know what I mean? He got. I know he got a couple against Nate Breed and that, but he what do you call it? He got him against us all, as I say. So look, I just give him the nod.
Yeah, fair enough. So just to recap on it then, Brian Tracy, Sean Joyce, Dion Wall, Paul Doyle, Dwayne Kavanagh, Kevin McDonald, Jack Kavanagh, Figure Fitzpatrick, James Doyle, Mouse Kavanagh, John Nolan, Dean Tobin, Chris Nolan, Craig Doyle, Jake Doyle. Hurler of the Year, Kevin McDonald.
Yeah, Kevin McDonald.
Oh, well done, Kevin. Fantastic throughout the year. Transformed Rangers, supposedly went back to 6. As they did in Burn, went back to 3, but the influence that Kevin just had in picking out passes and stuff. Wherever you play him, he's unbelievable. Man of the match in Sunday's final then.
You see, you won't give that up, will you? No.
Well, I just want to know.
Time to walk away, lad.
John Nolan for me. What do you think?
Not sure. Either of the two of them, like, I think, John. What's that?
I was going to that house, but look, there's no right or wrong answer. Well, there isn't, but sure, like, scores always get more
kudos,
yeah, like 1-5 in the county final, right? John kept James Doyle relatively quiet. James Doyle scored, like we were saying before. They were saying St. Mullins needed a couple, or Mount Leinster Rangers needed 2 goals. Need to keep James Doyle under 3 points if they can, and Mouse under 10, and the better all then, Sure, I don't know. This county, sure, it is what it is, I suppose. But yeah, like Chris, he even hit a wide in the game. He might hit one, I think. Did he?
He hit a horrendous one in the first half that he was disgusted with. When I say horrendous now, if I did fucking all day, I probably wouldn't put it over the bar. But by his standards,
was that the one on his left hand side? He struck out. Exactly. It would have taken us 2 pucks to get to the goal.
Yeah, he was absolutely.
Joe, remember I brought RTO for the Clanantrim a couple of years ago, and Joe McDonough was trying to decide the field in the day. Antrim got the 2 goals in injury time to level it, and I brought it and get to you and you fixed it. It's only a 30, like it's a freaking. You couldn't hook him, like it's like a wooden spoon, like. How would you get the strength into it? He must have wrists, like must be unreal, like
But he's striking. He's striking is just, and I said it to Kevin, and I remarked to you, Kevin. Remember that wide actually he did strike off his left hand side. He never flinched, never turned to his right hand side. Makes a big. You might say, that's a given. He's a county hurler. It's a given. It's not always a given. Like he's confident enough to strike a ball 70 yards off his, what we call his weaker side. They're the differences between the top class forward getting turned or not getting turned or being confident, to push him onto one side or the other. He's a phenomenal striker of the ball. Look, like you said, it was going to one of them, and probably the scores do carry the kudos, and that's the reality. We see it in all sports. The forward generally gets it.
Wouldn't be a word about it down there. Remember 2 years ago, they went out in the first half after hitting 12 points in play. I think John didn't give Chris the ball for a goal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You're on the same mantelpiece anyway, it won't matter. So that's the story, guys. Is there any other last thoughts? I have one thing I just want to say before we finish up, but have you any last thoughts there? All good?
No, it's good. It's good. It was a great festival of hurling at the weekend. We spoke about the other finals, and it was nice to see. I think we'd four different winners. So there's four clubs happy at least anyway, and there was a lot, like, while maybe the senior championship didn't set the world alight, there was other positives from a hurling point of view, from adult grade around, in terms of games played and teams fielded and so on. So look, we take them things.
Yeah.
So next Monday night in there. That's what you're going to say about the. It's a great night. We were up at a couple of years above there in Newbridge, and it's a cracking night. And look, it definitely has more relevance around the area, with poor Oisin Kelly.
That's where I was going to finish. Yeah.
So I'm talking with that. So that's a big event next Monday evening.
Sure is, Stevie. Absolutely. And I know we spoke about Oisin the other day during our commentary, but what we didn't get the opportunity to do because it hadn't happened at the time was the way Tommy Murphy actually delivered that before throw-in the other day.
I was beside him, Kevin, and it was just, and Tommy, he told me last week Oisin wasn't great, and I didn't think, I didn't think it was that imminent, but he gave me a print off of what he actually said, like, in the whole place. I know, like, you're waiting for a minute's silence and there's a few words about someone, but like, you could be talking still about the chap, and like, in fairness to Tommy, his own club man, Derry O'Toole said it there on Twitter, just you couldn't. If he, Tommy's around the block, but it had to be tough on him too. Like, if he talking about someone like that, like, we always go back to Pat Foley here. Pat was killed. He was 23 years of age. There's an article in the book about the cups, the 3 cups. His intermediate cup was called after him, and I can still remember as clear as day the day he was killed. He was 8 years of age, different circumstances, cancer and a road collision. Different, but still it's an empty chair at the table. The following couple of days and forevermore, and that's, unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah, Tommy was outstanding. You could I said, you could hear a pin drop, you could feel the shiver down the spine. It was just, it was emotional stuff for all the wrong reasons. So again, as we finish up, we just want to offer our condolences and deepest sympathies to the Kelly family as we finish up the coverage here of the championship, and a reminder of the important things in life, which is friends and family at the end of the day. And on that note, Joe and Stevie, thanks a million. Really appreciate your contributions, and we'll chat to you again soon. All right. Thank you.
All right, lads. Take care. Bye-bye.
The Left Wing Backs coverage of the Carlow Hurling Championships for 2023 is brought to you in association with Talbot Fitness, Brendan Cabinet Furniture, Corcoran Precast Tanks, Milano's Takeaway Bagnestown, Connolly's Topline Hardware, PFT Travel, Ray Whelan Limited, Earth Spas, and the Arboretum Loughlin Bridge.